Hey, what's up, guys? We're gonna talk some NFL free agency. Hey, just because I don't know, man. I ain't got nothing else to talk about. So, I'm sick of hearing about the coronavirus. At least we have this before we get into the actual NFL discussion. Just a quick side note. Um, what are we doing with customers? I don't know yet. We're gonna talk about it later. I think we're in the same spot that a lot of people are in, which is everything is so indefinite right now and so up in the air. Um, I don't think I really have a good answer for you. I've been trying to tell my 11-year-old son this for the last couple of days, and I think it's finally starting to make sense to him. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. The reason people are using the term indefinitely about how things are canceled because we don't know how long it's going to take. I'd love to think that there's enough rich white men probably funding this because they're losing so much money right now. We're going to get this shit figured out, but we could be like this for months.
We just don't know, man. The ripple out effect is just starting too. So we know everyone's going to be feeling it. We're feeling it. Obviously, we have nothing to do. Um, Getting on just for this NFL video, man, I was looking forward to this. Like since we talked about it a couple days ago. Obviously, missing doing videos with you, missing working, missing everything right now. It's hard. Like I just told you, it's hard to see the light at the end right now. And just on the subject of the NFL stuff, I love talking about it, and I love that it's going on. The Browns have made some good moves. Part of me thinks like it's wrong that they're doing it for a couple reasons. One, like everything else in the world is shut down, but mostly because these guys are signing pretty big contracts right now and cannot get flown out, for medicals and stuff like that. You know, God forbid when this clears up a month, 2 months from now, one of those guys gets hurt between then or fails his physical, and you have serious problems. So I'm
We're
happy
talking
that.
about Cam Newton. I was listening to that this morning. Like, how do you know if Cam Newton's healthy if you can't see him?
Amen. So that's exactly what I'm saying. I didn't even think about that, but I mean, it probably won't end up being a problem. And trust me, I'm happy they're doing it. But man, I wish there was more going on right now. No one knows. No one has the answer. So we're not going to sit up here and pretend like we do.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say this. I kind of talked about this when we did the Framil Reyes free agency or fantasy baseball video the other day. If you are in a position to help other people out, it's a great opportunity just to do what you can do. I mean, I hate asking for tips, but I lost all of my income this month. So PayPal address is down there. If you want to throw $5 our way, we'll take it. I hate asking for that, but right now you lose all of your income, and we are far from being alone right there. I also bartend part-time. And while for me, that's a part-time gig that's usually just there to get out of the house and have a little fun. You think about everybody in the service industry right now who doesn't get any money. Now they're talking about everybody getting $1,000, and that's great, but we're all adults here. $1,000 used to be awesome, but that's going to go like that. House payments, car payments, what's going on? Everything's so up in the air. If you are somebody who is in a fortunate enough position to help support a small business owner within your city, please do so because a lot of people are really, really going to be hurting. And again, we talked about this the other day. We're both in a fortunate position that if things got really, really bad, I can call my mom and dad, be like, hey, can I borrow a couple $1,000s until this whole thing's over? Cool. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has that support system in their life.
No, they don't. Just to kind of piggyback off that, obviously money's tight right now for a lot of people. But you just talked about the service industry, restaurants. I'm worried about the ripple effect of all that stuff after this. Restaurants, a lot of
They
restaurants.
just shut down Wisconsin yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of restaurants are going to close. If you can, and you're in a position to order out food to support local restaurants, I encourage people to do that because that's going to keep these restaurants afloat right now. Probably barely, but it's better than nothing. And again, I know people have stocked up on food at the grocery store, but a lot of these restaurants are trying to survive right now by doing carry out deliveries. So if you can and you're in a position to help out those local businesses.
Some of you are, some of you are. And if you're not in a position, don't spend your money that you just need to survive on somebody else. But I look at my kid's mom, she's getting a ton of vacation right now, but she's still getting paid. That's a good job to have right now. There are other people who will continue to get paid like normal. And then there's a lot of people who are going to be hurting big time. So if you can, it's awesome that you're doing it if you can. For the rest of us who are in a crappy position, because I know we are far from alone on this. Let's just try to band together as a community and get through this. It sucks for everybody. I actually have posted my last Facebook post was something my daughter said this morning because her aunt and uncle aren't coming to visit anymore. She goes, Daddy, the coronavirus sucks. And from a 6-year-old, that was kind of funny. And I'm like, yeah, honey, it does suck because we don't know how long it's going to be like this. This shit is awful.
I mean, it goes, you talked about the service industry. Think about the sports industry, how we're not alone. Obviously, the casinos in Vegas are now shut down, which kills a ton of jobs out there. And then you think about it, there weren't even sports. So you've got all the people that working there out of jobs, a lot of people in a lot of places. So I couldn't agree more, man. If you take nothing away from this video except that, please do.
All right, so we're going to talk about just some of the bigger moves. We'll probably hit on some of the smaller moves for our own individual teams just to bring it up. You know, you're a Browns fan, I'm a Packers fan. But let's start with the biggest one, which is going to be the breakup of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Clearly, as far as resume goes, at the very least, it's, you know, he's the GOAT. You can take the arguments for Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning for being better. I'll listen to those and I can support some of them, but he's the GOAT of all time. Seeing him on a different team is going to look really, really weird. Any first thoughts on this whole thing? Because I think if you've been paying attention all year, this was almost inevitable for a lot of people.
Yeah, this was kind of written between the lines, hidden between the lines, if you will. I was talking to a Taylor, you know, one of my buddies, one of our customers, who's a big time Buccaneers fan about this for a couple of days. This has kind of been in the tea leaves, I feel like, for weeks now, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Listen, he's better than Jameis Winston in just its simplest form because you can trust him with the ball. But his numbers aren't going to be as good as Jameis Winston's because
Not for yardage and touchdowns, probably, right?
no, he'll obviously have a lot less interceptions. I think it's a move that how do you not make it if you're Tampa? I mean, Jameis is full of question marks. You can get Tom Brady. I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl this year, though. I like the wide receiver pieces they have, and I hear a lot of talk that they're going to get Melvin Gordon to be their feature back in their backfield. I'm sure I have a feeling you like Ronald Jones more than Melvin Gordon, but that's another video for another day.
We can get into it today if we want.
True.
I got the time.
My big problem is their O-line. Like, can they protect Brady?
Well, they were graded 10th last year.
Okay, so that's
above average.
Okay, yeah, above average. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like shocked by it, but I still think the Saints are a better team by a good amount.
So I saw, and I think it was our boy Brad or somebody else, or maybe Brian Spencer, one of our customers, who's absolutely just lit as hell when it comes to good social media stuff. And it was a picture of the Buccaneers, and it was something along the lines of like, if you didn't support us when we were 7-9, then you can't support us next year when we're 8-8. Like, yeah, I think they're going to be a decent team. I'm just not sure that this is going to be the game-changing move. Tom Brady, again, resume alone, he's the GOAT by probably a wide margin at this point. But let's not pretend like, is he still like even a top 10 quarterback, do you think?
I mean, that's a loaded question because it depends on the situation. Like, if I needed like one game to win, yeah, I mean, I'm looking to Brady. It's a tough question. I don't have a correct answer for that because we did see a lot of, he's certainly regressed the past couple of years. He also hasn't had a great supporting cast to work with. I do think kind of this piggybacks into a good question. Who do you think next year proves more for or can prove more for, Brady or Belichick? Because you hear a lot about, when Brady got hurt and Matt Castle started and the Patriots were 11-5. Well, that 11-5 isn't that good in my opinion. They were undefeated the year before. They had a really, easy schedule the next year. I'm not sure. Who do you think can prove more in their career by having a good year next year, Brady or Belichick?
I think it's a 50-50 question. Like, I don't think there's a right answer to that one. And I honestly, that I'm a Bill Belichick supporter. I think he's the greatest coach of my lifetime, unquestionably, and I don't even think there's a close second place. Whereas I believe with Tom Brady, resume GOAT. But I believe with the firmest of convictions, if you were to put John Elway, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Drew Brees in the same situation that Tom Brady was in, where he got to play for Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and we can talk about cheating if you want to and all the things that go into there. I think they give you very similar results. Now, I could be wrong, but there's no way to prove it one way or the other, so that can be my theory. Impossible to prove or disprove. I just, I've been more Belichick than Brady. However, I think what's most likely to happen is for us to find out that the reason that the greatest NFL franchise or the greatest run in NFL history was because it was a perfect marriage. That Tom Brady was an extension to Bill Belichick on the field. And my best guess is both teams are going to be all right next year, but neither one of them is going to do anything super special.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny that you do, and I don't disagree with you, and you're right, it can't be proven or disproven, but from a guy who usually looks at math for his answers, you know, you're not wrong in the sense that what if Aaron Rodgers were on the Patriots, John Elway, et cetera. That's sports, though. I think about that same question like in the NBA. You know, we don't see it magnified like this, but you hear guys talk about it all the time. Like, we talk about it. Like, these teams are just set up to lose, and these players are set up for failure in a lot of these organizations.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the NBA comparison on the way back from dropping my kids off at their mom's house, and it was Bradley Beal and James Harden both put up monster numbers. But what if they were to switch? Because as much as I could be hard on James Harden from time to time, and we both love Bradley Beal, there's a big difference in what they do to affect a team's winning, despite the fact that they both statistically put up a ton of points, have monster usage rates, et cetera, and stuff like that. And we're Bradley Beal guys.
Well, yeah, as much as, well, Harden takes crap for being like a top 5 player. You know what I mean? Like, people, he's one of the few guys that are like just so good offensively that he does carry the wins, like just based on his offense alone. Like, and that's it.
Yep.
Beal is like the next step below, but like you've talked about, I mean, Harden might be the best offensive player, one of the best ever, if nothing else.
The Rockets win, the Wizards don't. I'm not saying that their supporting cast are the same, but let's not pretend like James Harden has been sitting over there playing with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson.
No, you're right about that. I never really thought about it like that, but you're right.
You know, Harden finds a way to win. So that's a little bit off subject. So I do think we see this one relatively eye to eye. I think it's really cool for the Tampa Bay, you know, outside of the Super Bowl run that they had in the early 2000s and that great defense they had for a handful of years, to have something to cheer for down there, because you isolate that 5 or 6 years or whatever it was where they were a really good team, one of the best defenses we've ever seen. It's been a really crappy franchise. So for a guy like, you know, our buddy Taylor, who's in a situation right now where he has something to root for, I mean, that's a cool situation for him. That'd be a lot of fun to watch.
No doubt. So I completely agree with that. I think that the biggest thing, but maybe even bigger than that, is the city of Tampa. So I guess that's my biggest surprise of Brady going to Tampa, is that it's freaking Tampa Bay. Like, why is Brady going to Tampa Bay? But I think Tampa Bay is one of these up and coming cities. I know that, you know, a big part of you know, Brady being recruited there was meeting with like Bill Gates and the owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning and talking about the development they're doing in the city. I think this is huge for the city of Tampa Bay.
And for Brady, when people are like, why are you going to Tampa Bay? When you're coming out of a situation where after Rob Gronkowski, who, you know, was one of the guys that helped make Tom Brady's career, wasn't there, we saw how bad the pieces were around him. Tampa Bay has got some damn fine skill position players. Like, I think Ronald Jones is a solid running back. But then you get into Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. I mean, imagine if they bring in one more, you know, if Antonio Brown follows them there. Like, this is a loaded offense.
Yeah, Antonio Brown would be a wow. I'm interested to see Mike Evans and Brady, because Jameis was actually a good fit for Mike Evans, just in terms of his ability to throw the deep ball. Now, I don't think Jameis, I'm just really interested to see, like, how much better, if better, like these receivers are with Brady, because I'm not sure they are, and especially from a fantasy perspective.
Well, I think their numbers take a little bit of a hit, because what Jameis has that Brady won't is he'll just keep throwing it and chucking it and getting behind and keep chucking it and chucking it and chucking it. Like, there's no way that Tom Brady replicates the yardage that Jameis Winston does.
No, they're going to be a running football team, I think, a play-action running football team.
So that is kind of, you know, some of the other things that go along with it. What would be your thought? Does it Tom Brady take a hit for his legacy, which again is monstrous? So even a hit, and he's still up there. If like he comes to Tampa next year and he just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Okay. Minor hit though, right?
His ultimate legacy, like, you know, probably he's up there. Like, he's not Michael Jordan, but he's kind of up there in that type of stature.
For sure.
And you know, people remember that Jordan played for the Wizards, but it's like no one really cares, you know?
So how about the situation that, like, let's say the Patriots next year, and assuming the NFL goes out without a hitch, and the Patriots, you know, they play with one of those scrub backups that they have right now, or say they get I'm trying to think who else could be out there right now.
Well, Cam, Andy Dalton.
Okay, Andy Dalton. Let's go with Andy Dalton. Let's say Bill Belichick takes Andy Dalton, and they go 13-3, losing the AFC Championship game, and the Buccaneers go 8-8. Now, knowing that Tom, you know, the players age quicker than coaches clearly for what they're needed to do because of the physical capabilities, does that say something to you, or are you just going to chalk it up to the fact that Tom Brady's 42 years old?
I mean, how could that not say something to you? If the Patriots go like 13-3 with Andy Dalton, yeah, it says a lot to me.
Because one of the reasons that, you talk about how I like to look at math and numbers and statistics, and I use the term Max Kellerman brought up, one statistics are a physical, factual account of history. But there is also an eye test that goes along with it. One of the reasons I believe that other quarterbacks could have come into the system that the Patriots ran and did what Tom Brady did is I've watched
Yes.
100 Patriot games, and there's literally guys always wide open. When I watch Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, like Drew Brees, the king of accuracy, when I watch the Saints play, like, yes, occasionally guys are wide open, but it's watching Drew Brees hit these tiny windows with perfect accuracy. I'm like, that's pretty incredible. When I watch the Patriots play, it's Tom Brady throwing the ball 8 yards down the field to a guy who's literally got nobody 10 feet, 10 yards close to him.
So I think Brady is best in just like he gets it done. Like he just gets it done. It's not always the prettiest in the world, but he's always like, or not always, but a lot of the times the last man standing, beating a lot of these better quarterbacks that you talked about. So was that Belichick? Maybe. Let me ask you kind of the flip it and reverse it question. What if Belichick goes after any one of those quarterbacks? Jacoby Brissett, Dalton, Cam Newton, any of them, and they're 7-9. And Tampa Bay with Brady is 12-4, and they make the NFC title game. What does that change, if anything, in your mind?
Well, it has to change a little bit as well. I can't beat the drum for Bill Belichick for the better part of a decade and then not take that into account when I'm looking at these two guys. Now, I will say, as much as we don't think Brady puts up the yardage that Winston did or anything like that, I'm not going to be surprised if that offense is really good. You got a very motivated Tom Brady with really good weapons, a pretty solid offensive line, an emerging defense around him. There's a lot of reasons that a mediocre quarterback could walk into this situation and succeed. So it's definitely something that I'm going to watch very closely next season. And again, if the Patriots get, because I'm not a big Andy Dalton fan, but can we agree that he's probably a C to C plus quarterback?
He's a C quarterback, C to C plus. Yeah, agreed. I mean, he'd be a solid backup. He's just been in a tough situation for years. One thing I want to say about the O-line, because I know I mentioned that earlier, that I lost it. The thought was that their O-line is decent, like you mentioned, 10th. It's ranked 10th, but their best O-linemen are in the interior. So I think they're going to need some help on the outside because Brady has had, like you talked about, it goes beyond just, the wide receivers. The protection for Brady has been amazing.
For most of his career, absolutely. That's the other thing that I don't know how well this will work is, especially as he's gotten older, and part of it could be the complete lack of outside weapons. Tom Brady's best thing is not throwing the ball down the field, which is what Bruce Arians likes to do. And that's where Mike Evans succeeds. Chris Godwin seems to kind of succeed all over the place. So I don't know that works out very well. Now, are they going to be able to adjust it and kind of do what Tom Brady does really, really well, which is play the quarterback position the exact same way that I play the game of Madden, attack within the hash marks, crush the middle of the field, and maybe not be very good at outside. I mean, maybe we'll watch. I'm very curious to watch this whole thing.
I think they have to, man. You can't get Tom Brady and not cater everything to him, right?
You wouldn't think so. I mean, especially since you're clearly all in on winning something pretty major over the next 2 seasons. I mean, you gave this dude $60 million.
Yeah, I mean, although you see the quarterbacks getting paid, like Phillip Rivers getting 25 mil, man, it's crazy.
All right, so I think we gave out some of our Brady thoughts, and we don't need to attack everything that's out there right now. Clearly, you guys probably don't care, nor am I qualified to speak on Justin Simmons at safety for the Broncos. But let's go back up to the top and talk about the I'm going to air quote America's team because I don't think a lot of people actually believe that anymore, but the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, the franchise tag. What's your whole kind of evaluation of this? Because it seems to me that even though I don't think Dak is going to go down in history as, Tom Brady or anything like that, the fact that they haven't signed him to a long-term deal is really weird to me.
I don't think it's really weird. I think it's surprising, but I think they ultimately will sign him to a long-term deal. I think that's the point of the tag. He's still getting a bunch of money this year.
Franchise tag and making guys like this, like a potential franchise quarterback, though, unhappy, that's not good for the marriage going forward.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I still think that they sign him long-term, though, because that's his best opportunity to make money. But you're not wrong. I don't think it's the best move for them. I don't think it's the worst move for them. I think it had to be done because they needed to lock him in. But you're 100% right. This could definitely backfire for them. There's a reason that most quarterbacks like this aren't franchised. The Cowboys have never used a franchise on a quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, again, I predict that he ends up signing with Dallas. So at the end, it won't be a big deal, but I certainly see your points.
Because that was something that I was listening to this morning that I don't always think about from that way. And for everybody who's been in a relationship or is currently in a relationship, when things get rocky and you ask the other person, how things are going, and if they're kind of wishy-washy on it, that breeds immediate, like in the back of your mind, like you're not sold on me. And while some people, and maybe Dak does it, says, well, I'm going to prove it this year and then we're going to be good going forward. In the back of his mind, he might be thinking, well, shit, next year I'll go to somebody else who will appreciate me because he's getting paid somewhere. So that's an interesting way of looking at it from the Dallas Cowboys perspective. Very un-Jerry Jones-like.
Very much so. So he got the exclusive franchise tag, and I don't exactly know what all those details mean, but I do know that he's the 6th quarterback ever to receive this exclusive tag. So probably just a bump in money amongst other things. And I also know that you can't talk to other teams on this tag. So the only quarterback to not reach a long-term deal on this tag was Kirk Cousins with the Redskins. And I feel like they always were going back and forth, always some,
But that's been there in Dallas too. That's why
You're
think I heard that brought up the exact same comparison. That's why I think you made up the right point right there. Like, it is really interesting that, like, as much as I don't think Dak Prescott's going to be Tom Brady, like, once you drop off that top 10 in quarterbacks, like, it becomes difficult to, where are you going to go to get better?
Oh, they have to keep Dak. But the only thing I'll say from Dak's side is, like, I think a lot gets overblown about this franchise tag. I mean, I get it. Like, you're not getting as much security. You're not signing a long-term deal. But this exclusive franchise tag is expected to be worth between 30 and 33 million this year. So, I mean, those are some of those good problems, right?
So, and I'm actually agreeing with you right now because I've always looked at the franchise tag like, dude, you're getting paid pretty good. Now, we're gamblers, though. So for me, like, the idea of gambling on myself as a 26-year-old potential franchise quarterback, like, I'm also an optimist. So I'm never thinking, like, what happens if I have a life-threatening or career-ending type of injury right here? And I'm like, dude, I get paid $33 million this year, and then I get a brand new contract next year. Like, dollar bills, y'all. I feel really good about that. But it doesn't seem like NFL players seem to feel that way.
No, because why would they want this decision chosen for them? I think that they hate the franchise tag because, they want the security of a long-term deal. You just mentioned a guy getting hurt. Well, if that gets hurt this year, he's not signing that long-term deal. The NFL is a cruel business to players. Players get cut all the time. I get that. I'm just saying, like, I don't feel bad for him because he's still making 30 million this year.
No, I don't feel bad for him. As a guy who lost all of his income over the last week, like both his main job and his secondary job, look, man, I don't pity anybody making $30 million a year in the slightest. But I'm trying to take a look at it from the player's perspective that, like, the human element, some of the things that we like to talk about when it comes to even just playing DFS, like, man, like, you don't think, like, what have I not showed you yet that you're going to ink me to this long-term deal? Like,
you're right.
I'm out. Go fuck yourself.
You're right. That he could easily, players have different motives all the time. I was hearing Jimmy Butler talk. He did an interview with JJ Redick like last week or the week before. And he was talking about how he pretty much knew that he wasn't going to re-sign in Philly. But like after the end of the season and he was having his like exit meetings, Elton Brand said something like, who's the GM of the Sixers, said something like, we love Jimmy, just how do we control Jimmy? And Butler heard that and was like, I'm out. He's like, I don't want anyone trying to control me. Like, who do they think I am? Like, et cetera, et cetera. And like that right there, that's what he said at least. He was done right after that. So these guys are people too, as we like to say. You never know what they're thinking.
Yeah, every season that goes by, I love Jimmy Butler more and more. I love what he brings to a team, and he's kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to show you. So I've become a bigger Butler fan. He doesn't have the talent of James Harden or a Giannis or a LeBron, but I think he gets the most out of what he has. I like the cut of his jib, as we like to say.
For sure. Kind of on that same note with Dak, they ended up signing Amari Cooper for a pretty big deal. I know that he turned down a deal with the Redskins for bigger money. So Dallas made a mistake by letting him go talk to other teams, but in the end, it worked out. They re-signed him. I don't have much to say about the Cowboys because it's status quo.
No, me either. I mean, to me, the Amari Cooper showed us that he's a number one talent. It's a lot of money to give to a number one wide receiver, in my opinion, where as good as he is, we heard those rumblings down the stretch last year. Like, he just doesn't seem like the guy. Like Michael Irvin, another Cowboy great, you wanted him in crunch time. Like, is Amari Cooper the guy in crunch time that you trust to make the big play?
No, but it also goes to the point like it's a business. They dealt a first round pick for this dude. He's been good. No way they couldn't re-sign him. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I don't think it's a bad contract in the slightest. And I mean, he still is only 25 years of age, so you got him for the prime of his career right there. And clearly, the guy's going to put up some numbers. There's some chemistry between him and Dak. He plays his big games at home. Gets the crowd electrified, which we know Jerry Jones loves. But speaking of number one wide receivers, I mean, the difference in what these guys gave up for DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs is incredible to me.
I can't believe that DeAndre. I mean, this Bill O'Brien needs to get canned. It's ridiculous. Rumors coming out today. I don't know if you heard that a big thing with Hopkins is that in one of their meetings he compared him to like Aaron Hernandez, some stuff that's completely off the board. I don't understand Houston at all. I've always said this about him. Hopkins is a Hall of Fame talent, easily a top 3 receiver in football right now. How you deal him for David? I mean, I got nothing, man. I got nothing. What's your take on the deal? Just your first take.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I
listened to some breakdowns after they talked about how it wasn't working, that there was tension there, and that the way the contract was going to play out, that it just wasn't going to work. But I mean, you got nothing out of him. Like, what, a 4th round pick?
And David Johnson, and that's the other point. Like, David Johnson was going to get cut, and you could have got him for cheap money. Instead, they're picking up his whole salary, basically as much as DeAndre Hopkins was making. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
That's the thing about David Johnson, and that I was talking to you about that clown on Instagram.
Yeah.
I won't give his name. A lot of you guys might know who he is. But he's got a big following, and he told everybody last year that David Johnson should be the number 1 overall pick. Blah blah blah, and he's just like stuck to his guns on it. Even though David Johnson was massively outplayed last year by Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake when given the opportunity. I mean, this is a guy that, I'm sorry, like, he had a great season in 2016. That's like forever in running back time. And since then, again, I won't count the 2017 season because he played all of, 11 snaps or 11 rushes. He's averaged 3.5 yards per carry basically since then. Massively outperformed by like a yard per touch last year, I think, by both Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds when given the opportunity. Like, he's nothing but just a guy.
I don't get it. Like, it just makes this deal is one of the worst deals I've ever seen in any sport, and that says a lot because there's some bad deals done.
DeAndre Hopkins, like, we agree, like, he is without a doubt a top 3 NFL wide receiver, debatably number 1. You said Hall of Fame talent, duh. Like, he is clearly a Hall of Fame talent. Like, he could go down as one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's got possibly the best hands I've ever seen. I mean, up there with Chris Carter, and you gave him away for a 4th round pick.
And look what he's done with like really shitty quarterbacks besides Deshaun Watson for the past couple of years. Yeah, I don't get it. And he's also like not one of these diva types. I get it that him and Bill O'Brien, I guess, didn't get along great, but you look at who Bill O'Brien's gotten rid of because they, quote, didn't get along. Clowney, it goes beyond those guys. Arian Foster, even from years ago. So I think this Bill O'Brien's got, how does this guy, there are very few guys that are coach and GM.
So I know you're the all-time Bill O'Brien hater, but after this, I'm like, damn, Matt's been calling this shit right for years on Bill O'Brien, because that's some clown show stuff right there.
Because you'll love this too. Not only do they do this, but then they sign Randall Cobb to like a 3-year, $30 million deal, paying him $10 million a year. He's washed. I've heard people say like, oh, they can afford to deal Hopkins because they got Will Fuller and Kenny Stills on the outside. Are you kidding me? I mean,
so you get 3 or 4 games of Will Fuller.
Even if you got full games out of them, which you won't, like Hopkins is a different breed.
I don't know. I would have been more. I could understand dealing him, but you didn't get anything. Like,
right.
Look what they got for Stephon Diggs.
Exactly.
Like, that's crazy. Like, Diggs is good, but Hopkins is better. And I realize Diggs is under contract for longer. Awesome. But I feel like if you're making a move like this, you have to have confidence you're going to be able to re-sign this guy long-term in some, situation. Like, the Diggs trade versus the Hopkins trade, like the Diggs, I mean, Buffalo gave up a lot, but I got it. It made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo's trying to win now. The window is open with, Tom Brady out of the East and everything like that. But you absolutely got fleeced by the Arizona Cardinals. Not only did they give you I'm sorry, David Johnson's just a guy.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a meme on the internet after this was done. if this trade took place in a fantasy football league, it would be vetoed by all the other owners, and those guys would be kicked out of the league.
I mean, he's not that much better, if better, than all that Duke Johnson who they have right now.
He might not be.
He might not be. I'm excited for Hopkins in Arizona with Kyler Murray. All of a sudden, if you're a Cardinals fan, man, how are you not like? They got a good receiving core.
I think he's an above-average running back.
You like Kenyon Drake. You already thought he was better than David Johnson. I think Edmonds is good. I like what they're doing in Arizona. They got a top 10 pick. I mean, Hopkins is all like, again, I can't emphasize this enough, and I don't know him, so I can't speak on this too much, but he does not seem, and I've not heard of him being one of these diva types. I think he's a guy that you build around, that he can fit into any culture. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I'm ecstatic right now.
The one argument I heard against DeAndre Hopkins was they talked about all, and this is actually something that you've brought up before in the past, number one wide receivers don't win Super Bowls. And they were getting ready to have to pay him as a number one wide receiver. So they felt like they might as well get rid of him now and get something for him. My biggest argument is you didn't get anything for him.
You didn't get anything for him. And also, like, you were close to beating KC last year. This past season. You were up 21-0. Like, you know, as much as I gave Houston shit, like, I don't think they needed these major changes. They traded Clowney and DeAndre Hopkins in the past 2 years and did not get one first-round pick. They traded for Laramie Tunsil and gave up 2 first-round picks. I mean, I think that tells you all you need to know about Houston.
If I'm a Packer fan right now and knowing that Green Bay is like a DeAndre Hopkins short of being, to me, the NFC favorite.
Oh, my God.
And we could have gotten him for a first-round pick. I couldn't have given you our next 2 first-rounders quick. Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers with Devonta Adams and DeAndre Hopkins? And then whatever else they're going to do moving forward. Plus, you got Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. I mean, that would, to me, would be huge. I would have given you our next 2 number 1 picks. Instead, it's kind of like, to me, I'm like looking at the Houston Texans. Like, they're like, well, we got to trade DeAndre Hopkins. Like, hey, guys, we're willing to trade DeAndre. And Arizona's like, here's a 4th-round pick. But you have to take David Johnson's salary. And they're like, you dumb son of a bitch, I'm in.
I heard someone say, like, a funny move after the trade, like, Houston countered back and forgot to unclick the DeAndre Hopkins box. Sucks when that happens.
I like that. That's better. I think that's a great comparison. How do you get, I know you're the Bill O'Brien hater, but man, how do you let this happen?
And like, that's the other thing too. There's more people than just Bill O'Brien. How do you let this happen? Like, you have a fan base too. Like, this guy might be the best Texans player. I mean, right after Andre Johnson, probably one of the 5 best Texans player ever. I was just about to say that, and you took the words out of my mouth. How do you let this happen?
Okay, I love Andre Johnson. DeAndre Hopkins is better than Andre Johnson, in my opinion, and I'm a big Andre Johnson fan.
Okay, I'm not gonna. I think Hopkins is better too, but I think Johnson, had the better career because
he's played for longer for the Texans. I'm not arguing that he's not the better Texan. I'm just saying I think Hopkins is better than Andre Johnson by a little bit.
Same, but Andre Johnson is also amazing too.
Oh yeah, I was a huge fan of his. So
he was definitely a guy that was a beast in fantasy as well.
Sure, and again, like as a Packer fan, it's hard for me to have any hate for the Texans because they've never done anything to my team, right? You know what I mean? So I just kind of always looked at them as this lovable loser. They've been all right the last couple of years. I like Deshaun Watson. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I've always liked Andre Johnson. So they're just players. I'm a big Arian Foster fan. I called his breakout fantasy season. I had him on every lineup, every team that year. He helped me win a ton of money. So like it's just I like these guys, and I don't get it. I'm so confused by this one.
Man, you talked about potential grumblings with Dallas and Dak Prescott. If you're Deshaun Watson right now, like, how are you not livid?
To quote Derek from Step Brothers, Audi 5000, my friend. I wouldn't want to stick around for something like that unless Bill O'Brien's gone or you completely redo things, man. Like, you're getting rid of my guys. Like, no.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
All right, so kind of changing the subject a little bit, just, bringing up any of these other things. So let's talk about the Tennessee situation. Now, I get that the quarterback market is absolutely insane, but what they gave Ryan Tannehill, to me, again, that just seemed like such an early commitment. Did you feel like that made sense? It was fair market value? Because for me, he just goes as Derrick Henry goes. And I get you're not going to pay a running back like that, but that was Derrick Henry's team.
I think they're a good fit together. Definitely overpaid. They didn't have much of a choice. I mean, he's definitely overpaid. And I think in a couple of years, you're going to be looking at that like, what the hell did we do? I'm not sure. I don't have I think that's a to be determined.
All right, so Derrick Henry's 26. He plays a very violent position in the way that he plays it and absorbs a lot of contact. I look at him as probably having about 4 more years. So I think the point that you brought up that these two being married together, and Ryan Tannehill specifically succeeded off of the play action last year. Again, Derrick Henry's good because of me. A couple of years ago, I said that this guy was a complete bust and that he was Trent Richardson. He's been good ever since then. So I don't know why I'm not getting more credit for this one. Maybe not enough people watch our show to understand that, but this guy is all that in a bag of chips right now. I guess I like the length of the contract because that's about what you see, that the age of 30 for a running back. God, I just feel like you don't need to pay somebody. If Derrick Henry's going to be running the ball, though, I feel like I could get away with a lesser quarterback and spend that money on the defense.
So maybe, I don't disagree, but also you had that with Mariota, and they were not good enough. Now
everybody's better than Mariota, though.
True. I will say this about Henry. You give him 4 years, I think that's generous. I don't give him 4 years, at least to be like this good.
He's only really had a ton of carries for 2 years.
I think he's going to be real good for 2 more years, personally.
Okay. It could be no more years, or it could be 6 years. He dishes. He is the one who gives out a lot of the beatings, so maybe that's different. But he's still taking hits every single time. Having played the running back position in high school, all I can remember is how shitty I felt after every practice of getting my butt kicked, and thinking that what these guys have to go through against guys 10 times his size, way stronger, way faster, and everything like that. And you understand why their careers take a hit so early. So I would have liked to have seen Derrick Henry with a nice 3 or 4 year contract right there, just because I feel like this dude deserves some money.
I agree. I also feel like for me, it's not even about his physicality. It's about, I was shocked watching him last year, how he was able to turn the corner. I don't think that's going to last forever, but he was amazing last year. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I do think that he deserves to get paid 100%.
Yeah. I mean, if you are a parent right now and you have your kids playing football and they're incredible athletes, please talk them out of the running back position, because as much fun it is in high school to get all the glory, you just do not get paid fair market value. It's just the truth of it.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
If you can't, I mean, even a guy who plays cornerback or linebacker or something like that, their careers are longer, they get better contracts and everything like that. I mean, running back is just the most underappreciated thing right now, because very often they are interchangeable. But Derrick Henry's, he's a game changer. I have never in my life can think of a guy where my opinion on him has changed so drastically in less than 2 years.
Good question. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you remember, I called him Trent Richardson 2.0. I think he's the best running back right now if you didn't take away, if you took out pass catching. And that's where like a Saquon becomes more valuable, because he's also really, really good and he catches passes. But just running the football, I mean, who's better than Derrick Henry?
You're right. No one right now.
So
no one last year.
Yeah, and that's fair. Because again, if you like Saquon, I get it. Nick Chubb's pretty good. No doubt about it.
But you're right. No doubt. Can't take it away from Henry. Monster year, monster playoffs. I mean, that helps his cause. So going on, kind of staying in that same division, what do you think about the Colts going to Phillip Rivers? Because I actually think Brissett is better. I think Brissett is better than Rivers right now.
For me, Phillip Rivers at 38 years of age, like, it's done. And it's been done. We saw it was done last year. This is a guy quite the opposite of Tom Brady. He was in a spot with loaded skill position players, still couldn't really make it happen. I mean, they had Keenan Allen and who's your other boy on the outside who I'm drawing a blank on right now? Mike Williams and Hunter Henry and Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, and he still looked like shit. I think this was a big mistake by the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think he's got much left. I like what the Colts are building too. It seems like they've really got their lines both locked in. I like what they've done on defense. Again, I don't think it's an awful move, because I think him and Brissett are pretty comparable, but I don't think it's like some huge upgrade.
I mean, do they have is there something that they have planned for next year? Maybe. I mean, if that's their whole end game right here. But to pay Phillip Rivers for a team that's not ready to win a championship next year, in my opinion, $25 million for one season, I would much rather take a chance on a younger player that hopefully, developed. And maybe that was Jacoby Brissett. I know you're a big fan of his, but This just doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think it makes sense for me because they think that they're a upgraded quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team. I don't think that's crazy either.
Well, then why didn't they upgrade? Why'd they downgrade?
Okay, see, I agree with that. That's a different point, though.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the Colts are right there with the teams like behind the Chiefs in the AFC, especially now that Tom Brady's gone and the Patriots look to be done.
Okay, so again, the NFL changes a lot year to year, but I think we both agree that Patrick Mahomes has every possibility to go down as the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, right?
Easily in a class of their own in the AFC.
And the Ravens
are in the next class.
And with adding Calais Campbell, the Ravens are going to be right there next year. I'm sorry, Lamar lost a playoff game. Let's not pretend like the Ravens weren't the best team in the NFL for the last 10 games of the year. So you got two teams right there that are, emerging juggernaut. I mean, hell, Kansas City's already a juggernaut. Like, do you think you're going to be able to bypass them with Phillip Rivers? It just seems like a wasted year to me.
I get that point, but to the first point, like, stuff does change a lot year to year. I mean, you look at Jacksonville 2 years ago. They all of a sudden don't even have anyone on their same team. So,
but that's like if you had told me back then you were signing Phillip Rivers for 1 year right there to be better than Blake Bortles, I could have understood that move. I don't get this move because even back then the AFC looked to be very wide open. You had a dwindling Patriot franchise that was almost winning by default at that point because nobody else could step up. Jacksonville looked like they were ripe for the taking, and then they got a bunch of injuries and had to deal with Blake Bortles. I could have understood this move back then for the Jaguars. I just don't get it for the Colts this year.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. The culture's still obviously scrambling from Andrew Luck retiring. Still, and that obviously has hurt their franchise. Switching to the Chargers and to another quarterback, because I've been thinking about this. Where do you think Jameis should go? Because I think the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Just
with him.
Spot.
What Jameis needs, for me, he needs his Mike Holmgren. And what I mean by that is when Brett Favre was young and he showed a lot of the same ability to move the ball, get the ball down the field, big plays, gunslinger type of mentality. But a lot of people, let's take a look at a couple of these Brett Favre seasons as long as I got Pro Football Reference pulled up, just as a reminder to how turnover prone he used to be. So when Brett Favre was young, we're talking like a lot of interceptions, 24 interceptions, 23. But what happened is Mike Holmgren really learned to reel him in and started talking about putting him back on the bench. Specifically, I'm referring to the 37-37 he had his first 2 years. And what Mike Holmgren did is he somehow taught and got into Brett Favre's head that we can deal with 3 and outs as opposed to throwing picks. Like, Jameis needs that voice in his ear, whoever it's going to be. You know what, dude? We don't need you to throw for 5,000 yards, 4,500 yards, but take away 10 of those picks and things are going to be all right.
Yeah.
Do you think he gets that in the Chargers? Because I like that idea.
Yeah, I like it too. I guess for me, it's like, who would you rather have at this point, Jameis or Cam Newton?
Jameis.
Easily, right? For me, Cam Newton's done. At their peaks, Cam Newton was definitely better. He was an MVP, took his team to the Super Bowl, but Cam Newton, I'm not sure where he should go at this point.
I don't know either. I don't know how healthy he is. That was one of the issues that we brought up early on, too. I have no clue how healthy Cam Newton is, so it's really difficult to talk about him. With Jameis, though, and I'm just laughing thinking about all the memes that came out after he had eye surgery, like Jameis is going to finally figure out that there was 4 wide receivers and not 8 and stuff like that. Like, those are all making me laugh. But, there's still possibly some potential for greatness in there, right?
No doubt.
Doesn't mean that ever comes to fruition. Doesn't mean he ever plays the quarterback position with the intelligence level that you want out of a guy who's not going to throw the ball into coverage over and over and over and over again. But there's potential right there. It's difficult for me to see any situation where Cam goes back to being an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. I'm rooting for the young man, but I just doubt it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You don't see a lot of guys get knocked down to the mat like this and then come back up to that kind of level. It's happened. We've all watched a lot of sports, but I just, the examples are few and far between.
It's happened. He could have one good year. I'm not going to be shocked, but I wouldn't bet on it.
All right. It seemed weird. I kind of felt like I wish AJ Green had gone somewhere else because Cincinnati, they're clearly not set up to win anything anytime soon. It just felt like he could have maybe, if he could stay healthy, help somebody else somewhere.
So I agree with that, but on the other hand, like they're drafting Joe Burrow from LSU. Like they know
All right.
this. They want a receiver with him. And all of a sudden, Cincy's thinking like, damn, we got ourselves a QB. Like maybe we could be good. I agree with you. I think that that's pie in the sky and they're not going to be good. But I get the logic of them keeping him, considering, man, they've kept him. Seems like he hasn't played in 3 years.
It's kind of like when you're playing year-long fantasy.
Yeah,
you got this guy gets hurt in week 3. You put him on your IR. And it's week 13, and you're like, he's still out. You're like, he's probably not playing the rest. You're like, screw you, man. He's been on my IR for 10 weeks. I am riding this thing out to the very end.
Like, no way you're about to ball for someone else after I held on to you all year. Like, yeah, exactly.
All right, I can get on board with that point. And I guess the other point would be, who the hell is AJ Green right now?
It's another great point. Although he does fit that, like, if I were the Packers, I think we talked about that, though. I mean, he'd be a fit there.
For sure. And I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen Stephon Diggs there, but clearly I'm glad they didn't give up that much for him. Although I do still like the move for Buffalo.
Yeah, I struggled to see Minnesota dealing him to Green Bay.
For sure. I'm just glad he's off Minnesota. He's killed us a few times.
Yeah, I think Minnesota has gone down.
All right, well, let's talk about Melvin Gordon then, because, for me, I was a Melvin Gordon guy 5 years ago when he was playing for the University of Wisconsin. I got to watch him play. He was incredible, but I've often theorized that he was more, to me, a byproduct of being so good in college behind that great offensive line that Wisconsin always puts up there. For me, in the NFL, he's just always been a guy. He's been all right, but a lot of his fantasy results have come from heavy red zone work. He's never jumped off the TV screen to me to think of him as like a game-changing type of running back. 4 yards per carry in his career on average. Every season except for one in 2018, he's averaged less than 4 yards per carry. A solid player, a bell cow if there ever is one, but I don't think I'm lining up to sign him.
Definitely a better fantasy running back than real life because he gets a lot of workload. Like you talked about the red zone usage, catches balls. He's a guy that I think you can feel comfortable in, filling in. But I don't disagree with you. I'm not like building my offense around this guy. That's for damn sure.
I'm sure somebody's going to overpay him.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Because, to me, like, there's rookie running backs that you can get that might not be a major downgrade from him. And I don't know what he's going to get paid or where he's going to go. I know here in Wisconsin, last year, before people really realized how good Aaron Jones was, people wanted to try to get him off of San Diego or the Chargers.
That ain't happening now.
No, and I'm like, dude, no. Like, he's just a guy. He is nothing but a guy at this point. Again, if you can't average over 4 yards a carry, I'm sorry, I'm just not impressed.
The fit with Tampa makes sense because it does kind of seem like they don't really want to give Ronald Jones that job.
And he's
brought Tom Brady. He's an upgrade from Peyton Barber. Yeah, I think Peyton Barber's fine, but he's an upgrade there. Again, you're going all in this year. Like, I get it for a team like that. I'm not saying it's the best move, but I get it.
Especially if he goes to Tampa on like a 1 year, $5 million contract or something like that, where he's like, I want to win a Super Bowl. I got Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I'm in, boys. Let's do this. Like that, I'm good with that because I think you're right. That would make sense. But you just feel like somebody's going to be like, hey, man, here's 3 years, $28 million. You're like, dude, you're just wasting your $28 million.
No doubt.
So, okay. We see that one relatively eye to eye. We've talked about him enough in the past. Let's see here. Anybody else that's worth bringing up? I will say that as a Packer fan, I would like to see Robbie Anderson sign a cheap little deal to go play in Green Bay. I think he's better than anything we also have at number 2. I'd be interested. I like the kid. I'd like to see what he could do with an actual quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that I'm not sure he's going to get a really small deal, but I have no idea.
Yeah, every day that goes by, though, is good for anybody who wants to take a look at him. I think he could add some value to some place. Like, I think Robbie Anderson would have looked good in New England last year with Tom Brady. I mean, just to have another guy that could actually do something on the outside.
True.
So, all right, let's see here. All right, well, let's talk about your Cleveland Browns for a minute. I know you messaged me the second this happened. Hell, you messaged me before it happened because you heard about it. What were your thoughts on Austin Hooper going to your Browns and the fact that they gave him a lot of money?
So they did give him a lot of money, but it's not a ton of comparative to other positions. And that's something I like about it. It seems like tight ends right now are being a little bit undervalued in the market. So they got Hooper at a decent deal. I'm not like overly ecstatic about the deal, but I've heard a lot of people compare Hooper to Kyle Rudolph, who obviously our new coach had in his Minnesota system for a long time. I get that comparison. I like it. I think that Njoku, hopefully they keep him, is more athletic but has stone hands. I don't think it's going to be a move that puts him over the top, but I like what they've done, adding him and Conklin from Tennessee. Solid moves to the Browns. What are your thoughts?
I like Austin Hooper. He definitely got paid a little bit too much.
Sure.
That's oftentimes what you need to do in free agency, though. Sometimes you have to overpay to get anything that actually matters. I know last year when the Packers signed Darius Smith, people, oh, you overpaid him. Well, not anymore. So sometimes these things can work out. He's 25 years old. I do find it funny. Like we already talked about this in passing. When you're like, oh, the Browns got Hooper. I'm like, didn't you spend all year telling me he wasn't as good as his numbers, and now that he's on the Browns, you like him? I like Austin Hooper. I would have liked to have seen him in green and gold. I thought he would have been a good matchup in Green Bay. I don't think we could have afforded to pay him this, so I don't think it was going to happen. But I think he's a solid player. Too much money, but a solid player, and I think he'll play nicely there in Cleveland.
They talk about this a lot, and I always heard Dallas and Jerry Jones as a saying, and why they don't spend on free agency. Good players get paid like great players, and
great players get paid by their own team.
Well, and good players get paid, and okay players get paid like good players, and it's true. You have to overpay a little bit to get these guys. They do see something in Hooper that they like, and again, I was not buying Hooper as like a top 3 tight end last year, and there are still guys I would take over him. Obviously, you've got Kelsey and Kittle in a league of their own. After that, he's like in that next group.
Ertz too.
Yeah, Ertz too, sure. So after that, he's in that next group, whether you want to say he's the 5th best tight end in the league, the 7th best. He's right in there. Now, one thing I'm worried about, a lot of his good numbers came from garbage time. We talked about that a lot. It started a couple years ago. So, we'll see how he adapts with the Browns. I do think that he's going to be good for Baker Mayfield. It can't hurt.
I will tell you this much. After being dead wrong on this one right here, I'll take Austin Hooper being overpaid right there than Jimmy Graham in Chicago. $9 million guaranteed. I'm sorry, he sucks. Like he is done. 2 years, $16 million, $9 million, $9 million guaranteed. I can get somebody better in the draft in the 5th round, in my opinion.
Yeah, like give me Austin Hooper at $11 million a year all day over that Jimmy Graham deal. So
I watched every play of Green Bay, right? Jimmy Graham cannot get separation.
He's done.
And he can't catch. And he's not a great blocker. So, like, what are you getting here? This is nothing but paying for the name. This is classic Chicago Bears right here. Overpaying for somebody that was on a division rival, specifically the Green Bay Packers. There's a reason he's not on Green Bay anymore. They've done this over and over again. I love it as a Packer fan. They constantly go after our sloppy seconds and overpay them. But that's a stupid deal for Chicago.
It's an awful deal for Chicago. Wanted to ask your opinion on another Browns move, though, that it's not getting much pub at all. They signed Case Keenum to a 3-year, like $18 million deal. So not chump change, not like big money. Do you think that he's going to come in and push Baker Mayfield? Now you've got a new regime in there, et cetera. Or is he just going to be the backup, capable of coming in if need be? I mean, for me personally, they got to come into the year having Baker be the guy. And then if something changes, then you go to the backup. But I don't think it can be like an open competition. What do you think?
How much was the contract again?
3 years, $18 million.
I like it as a security blanket. I mean, clearly, you got to go for it if you're the Cleveland Browns. And why am I blanking on who the new coach is?
Stefanski from Minnesota.
Okay.
So that's another thing about Keenum. They're very familiar with each other.
So, I mean, if Baker struggles throughout the year, because, it's no guarantee Baker turns into something. I feel like you clearly go into the season with your intentions being Baker Mayfield as the franchise quarterback here. It was a bad season. A lot of guys with good rookie years have bad sophomore slumps. Clearly the coaching wasn't working out very well right there. I think it's a solid backup, and if things don't go well, I think you can rely on Case Keenum to move the chains and run off of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Baker's got to be the guy. If they end up going to Case Keenum, that's big problems for the Browns. Not saying that he's not capable of getting the job done, but yeah, I think that the Browns, now without as much pub, they've still got talent. I think that it should be a much better year for them. Excited that they're going a little bit under the radar. For me, it's all about Baker Mayfield. We'll see what he has.
So I wanted to talk about number 47 up here, which is former Green Bay Packer inside linebacker Blake Martinez, 26 years old, going to the Giants on a 3-year, $30 million deal, and talk about how for most of you guys listening to this, you guys know your sports. You're out there watching YouTube, listening to guys talk about the NFL, baseball, and basketball when they're applicable. So I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about Joe watches only his home team play football, doesn't watch any other sports. I was out with some old coworkers of mine a couple months ago, and my buddy Jason, who was there with his brother, asked me, he goes, who do you think the best defensive player on the Packers were? And after going through Jair Alexander and, Zadarius Smith, this guy's brother was like, how is it not Blake Martinez? He leads the team in tackles. I go, I don't even think Blake Martinez is one of the top 5 players on the defense. It's a difference between having the opportunity to rack up stats versus really affecting a team. And inside linebackers will rack up stats, but I feel like the Giants just way overpaid for an inside linebacker.
Hell
He
yeah.
even says it right here. He's not plus against the run. You just saw Green Bay get absolutely killed by San Francisco, who didn't throw a passing play or didn't run a passing play throughout the entire second half almost. And they couldn't stop the run, and Blake Martinez is supposed to be the head of that snake.
A lot of his tackles, Blake Martinez, that has come like 5 to 7 yards downfield, which is never a good sign. Obviously, he's productive. He gets a lot of tackles, but I'm all 100% with you. And it's funny. Both our teams lost similar guys like that. The Browns lost Joe Schobert, who was good, but in much of that similar mold, man, like Jacksonville paid him 5 years, $55 million. All of a sudden they've dealt Calais Campbell. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey, Dante Fowler, and they're building around Joe Schobert. I mean, God bless you.
Yeah. What was the name of the guy that the Packers just signed? Why am I drawing a blank? He just came from Cleveland as well.
Oh, Christian Kirksey, who I think I love that signing for not a lot of dollars, like 2 years, $16 million. He's just productive, man. I love the cut of his jib. If he's healthy, I think he's at least the same as Blake Martinez, if not a slight upgrade.
Right. And that's, to me, when you feel like you have a good GM. I feel like it's a very lateral move. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be like I'm an expert on Christian Kirksey. I know he's missed some games the last couple of years for sure, right?
Yeah, he was getting paid a lot of money by the Browns. He was like their main guy in their defense, and then he lost. He's missed a bunch of games the past 2 years. I love that signing for the Packers.
That solid meat and potato signing. And I told everybody last year, all the Packer fans, because, a lot of Packer fans know football. They get very emotional very, very quickly. And they wanted us to go out and get Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm sorry, as a Browns fan, who made a bigger difference for their team last year? Zadarius Smith or Odell Beckham Jr.?
Obviously, Smith.
Okay, these meat and potatoes moves are very advantageous for teams. A lot of people go out and they try to make these big splashes. They don't have a high track record of success, but going out and getting these guys that can help your team win, build the culture and things like that, they can make a big difference. So I like the signing, but what I liked is we paid this guy one less year in his contract, less money per year, and it's a very lateral move with some potential upside.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you win in free agency and just in life and in the NFL.
You don't go out and sign Albert Hainsworth.
Right. You're like the Ravens, who just dealt the Ravens 2 years ago dealt their backup kicker, who they were developing with no chance to start over Justin Tucker, because obviously it's Justin Tucker. They developed this kicker, dealt him to Minnesota for like a 4th or 5th round pick. The kicker ended up not making Minnesota's team, and now they just flipped that 4th or 5th round pick to the Jaguars for Calais Campbell.
And that's genius right there. That is the opposite of Bill O'Brien.
Exactly. That's how you stay competitive. We talk about it in baseball a lot, but it just seems like some of these guys in the NFL are running circles around the other guys.
Well, it's like if you ever made a trade with the Patriots over the last 20 years, you were probably getting fleeced about 9 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did they, I forget, do you remember what they moved Matt Castle for?
No, but it must have been like at least, a good amount because he had that good year. I remember he went to the Chiefs, but I can't remember the circumstances.
Is Twitter even around then?
Wow, what Twitter was around then. I can't even believe that.
2009, Patriots trade Matt Castle, Mike Vrabel for a 30th pick. Come on. You got a first-round pick for him. First round.
First-round pick. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Matt Castle was all right for Kansas City, but clearly by the end, they figured out that wasn't much there. So, you just don't trade with the Patriots over those years. You're always getting the best end. Now, on the flip side of that is, from what I'm gathering, you want to trade with the Texans because you're always going to win.
Not even what you're gathering, what you see.
Oh, hold up. Wait a minute. We got breaking news, actually. It turns out that J.J. Watt, Will Fuller are on the move to New England for 3 cases of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be
no,
shocked at this point.
anything else you wanted to bring up? What about Emmanuel Sanders? This is for me, like as a Packer fan right now, knowing you're trying to win at this very moment.
Yeah.
I think this would be a nice fit, nice veteran presence. I'm sure him and Aaron would work well together. He's good at coming back to the ball on the scramble drill. Green Bay clearly needs another wide receiver. I would like that move. I think Emmanuel Sanders, he won't win you a Super Bowl, but I think he'll be a nice added addition wherever he ends up.
Agreed. And just speaking on the kind of all these points you talked about, man, I'm liking where I'm sitting if I'm a Packers fan right now, just because of how stupid the other teams in their division are. It seems that all other teams gotten worse. You start with Minnesota. Obviously, they lost Stefanski, who's now with the Browns. They just traded Diggs. The
They
Bears.
signed Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal.
Exactly. The Bears, signed Jimmy Graham. They don't know what their quarterback situation. The Lions might be worst of all. I mean, the Lions and the Dolphins keep signing these Patriots players, spending big money on them. If the Patriots don't want to keep them, that should tell you something. I know that it's funny. Jamie Collins signed a pretty big deal for the Lions, 3 years, 30-some million dollars. There is no doubt in my mind that he's going to be bad for Detroit. They're going to cut him in like a year and a half, and then he's going to go be really good for New England again. Exactly what happened with the Browns. It seems like it's we've read this book before type of situation.
The only thing I'll say that at least for the Lions, like they have an inside look at the Patriots and they know those players, so maybe it's a little bit different right there. But I've been watching.
It's a good point, like because the Dolphins coach is their former coordinator, and I get that, but I feel like they're trying too hard with players that, like the Dolphins paid $50 million for Van Noy from New England. Is Van Noy going to be as good for Miami as he was for New England? I'm not so sure.
No, because almost nobody's as good for somebody else when they come off New England because New England gets the best out of the players. That's why they're gold standard franchises.
And you can't discredit the players for that, right? But if you're an organization, making a decision to exactly, man, like
I want to get paid.
Precisely.
So I've been watching for years now, the Lions, the Bears, mostly, and somewhat the Vikings as well. Look at Greg Jennings. We had a linebacker whose name is slipping my mind right now, sign all of our old sloppy seconds for the better part of a decade and a half. The difference is Green Bay, while being an above average franchise, is nothing close to what New England is. And what I mean by that is Green Bay has been able to mask a lot of their
with Aaron
Rodgers and Brett Favre for the past 30 years. And we have not, we're looked at as a gold standard franchise by a lot of people, but it's only because we've had Hall of Fame quarterback play since 1991.
It's a great point. You probably should have. I mean, if you were a gold standard organization, you'd have more titles. But I will say to your point, like not even to your point, but another point, there are a lot of teams that, can't help themselves, that are just run shittily, for lack of a better word. So, whether it's because they've had 2 quarterbacks or just because other teams are worse, I get why people feel that way about the Packers because, quite frankly, Packers have been run much better than the Browns.
So I'm actually laughing right now, and you'll probably get this comparison based on a couple of conversations we have. A lot of you guys probably know I'm newly single again after a long time being out there, being married. And what I have found, I don't think that I'm especially great at talking to women or something like that, but that a lot of guys have set the standard so low that it's easy for somebody just to act okay, have a job and take care of your kids, and all of a sudden you're like a gold standard type of male. That's the same kind of comparison as you're making to a lot of these NFL franchises. Sure, the Packers haven't done a light right, but everybody else is so bad that it makes you look better.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and the comparisons are very apropos because they work. Yes, and yes, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're like, oh, you didn't send a picture of your dick 30 seconds after you gave me your phone number? Bam, top 50% right there. I'm like, top 50% on that alone? I'm like, I'll take it, but I don't feel like I did anything good here.
Sad but true.
Kind of. And that is a lot of these NFL franchises. We've talked about the AFC being like this for years. I mean, for the better part of the whole Patriots, 20-year run, yes, they were really good. But outside of Pittsburgh and whoever Peyton Manning was playing for in the Ravens, everybody else couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, you look at teams like, the Chargers had some decent moments. Jacksonville had that one year. But for the most part, It's a whole bunch of Bill O'Brien shit, and it's just teams not being able to get to the top. I mean, yes, the Patriots are great, but it became a lot easier when the Buffalo and Miami and the Jets were completely inept.
Exactly. These teams can't get out of their own way. And you've seen, the teams that are able to run smoothly. I mean, even the Ravens, who have had like down years, it seems they're always there because of that point.
Ozzie Newsome, other intelligent people within their front office making smart moves, turning a backup kicker, as you so put it, into Calais Campbell. And yes, he's not as young as he used to be, but I mean, Skip Bayless actually made a good point. Like, if you don't think Calais Campbell is going to come to Baltimore and throw in another good season or two, then you just haven't been watching.
Like, he could be an all-pro guy next year. That's
I
don't know.
It was so obvious Skip Bayless even got it.
Yeah, exactly. Great, good point.
All right, man. Anything else in the NFL that's kind of been shaken up you feel like we could discuss momentarily? I mean, we've gone through a lot of them. Again, I don't feel like I can tell you about Hargrave, the defensive tackle the Steelers signed with the Eagles, and you'll be able to speak with that with much of an education level.
No, DFS Patriot, our buddy, asked me yesterday who's going to be in the Super Bowl, AFC and NFC, and it's way too early for that. I can't answer that yet. Draft hasn't taken place yet. I don't know. I'm not in a position to answer that question. Obviously, you can make a guess, but it's based on nothing.
Well, I mean, for me, again, a lot changes, clearly. And we'll see what New England does now that we know Tom Brady is officially no longer there. Because as long as Bill Belichick is the coach, I'm going to give them the benefit of thinking they're going to be competitive. But I'll go back to something that I brought up earlier. For me, I feel like we are in a collision course of, I think, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are just a significant cut above the rest of the AFC, like, leaps and bounds. I love what the Titans did in the playoffs, but I mean, the Chiefs showed after getting down, 100-0, and then they won that game 500-100. They're just on a different level. So I feel pretty confident with the AFC of how it's going to break down. It's going to be those two teams. For me, the NFC, though, is wide open as hell.
It's funny because I agree with you, mostly more about KC than Baltimore, but things change fast in the NFL. Like, we think this now, but things change fast. So I don't know. I just don't know yet. I'm excited. At least we have something to talk about. I'm missing the NBA, man. I'm missing DFS.
Oh,
I'm missing that baseball's not coming up soon. Like, this is just awful. NCAA tournament. At least we got something to talk about to get us through this, because this has been the most fun I've had since this started, and that says a lot.
I know. There's a show. If you have Hulu, I've been rewatching it, and it's my all-time favorite show, and I was wondering if it would stand up, because when I watched it 10 years ago, it was before a lot of these great shows had come out. It's kind of like I love the show The Sopranos, and you love the show The Wire, but I feel like one of the reasons those shows were considered so great is because TV wasn't as great back then.
True.
And now we have lots of great shows that are out, and I still think The Sopranos is a great show, but I don't think it's like cutting edge great compared to a lot of the stuff that we have out now that's also really, really good. So the show that I'm alluding to is called The Shield, and I've been rewatching it on Hulu. It stands up. It is still super exciting. I know you watched it maybe half a year ago, and you couldn't talk about how much you liked it. For me, it's been 10 years, so I don't remember everything that went on. If you're bored, The Shield is on Hulu. It's amazing.
It's the best show ever. Like you said, The Wire is one of my all-time favorite shows. Sons of Anarchy is another one of my favorite shows. The Shield is like the perfect mix between them. It's the best show ever made.
What's crazy is, for me, I watched The Shield 10 years ago, and then I watched Sons of Anarchy 5 years ago. But now seeing all the cameos of the people that I had no idea about that were in Sons of Anarchy, you're like, oh, I know that dude from SOA.
That's the big thing. Why? Exactly. There's a lot of, because of the same writer, Kurt Sutter. I know they just put Sons of Anarchy on Netflix, either on Netflix or Hulu. I'm going to dive back into that.
It's Hulu because it had been on Netflix forever, and I think it's off now.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to get back into that. It's just too soon for me to start The Shield again. Like, you suggested that yesterday, watching
I was kidding, though, because it'd been less than a year.
Yeah, it's too soon. Like, once you start watching it, you'll remember everything that happens, and it's no fun like that.
I watched Breaking Bad about every 2 years because I think it's an incredible show to rewatch, especially when you start Breaking Bad, for those of you who haven't seen it, which is few and far between, and you don't know where it's going. You enjoy the show. You enjoy the ride. One of the only shows where the last season's better than the first season. But when you rewatch it and you start to know how the characters are going to develop, it's so cool to see those things again.
We got one more piece of NFL news to talk over.
All right.
Jacksonville traded Nick Foles to the Bears.
Okay. That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, but do you think that I think that unlike what we said about Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum, that is a quarterback competition through and throughout. I think it's 50-50 right now, don't you?
It's another example of how poor the Bears run their franchise because I like Nick Foles. I think he's a solid player, but you seriously you feel like this is like a big time upgrade over Mitch Trubisky?
I mean, I feel like they had to do something. It's in the same mold as them signing Teddy Bridgewater. And Foles is getting paid too. Man,
30 years old.
Yeah. I feel like you're right. If they're going to make a move like that to get a quarterback, at least go out and get someone that's better than this.
You know what it is? It's just reacting to your fans not being happy and just making a move to make make it seem like you're trying. Now, you probably guys have probably heard us bring this up multiple times on the show, but we at least like to watch teams make an effort to try to get better. This to me feels like just an effort to do something different just because you didn't win the Super Bowl last year and you didn't meet expectations. Like, again, you lost, Hicks throughout the majority of the year, and that was a big, big issue with your team. And Khalil Mack wasn't the same without him around. But do you feel like Bridgewater, now you have Trubisky to Nick Foles is going to be this major game changer that's going to lead you to the front of the NFC North? It's not.
No, aside from that Khalil Mack trade, you can look at a lot of what the Bears have done and with question marks.
Yes.
They just signed Robert Quinn to a massive deal who was kind of a numbers stuffer last year in Dallas. Not saying he wasn't good, but I think they overpaid him. This deal is, again, I think you're right. I get it on one hand, but I think it's a desperation move. Like if you don't have the answer and you can't get the guy you want, then just don't make the move.
Yeah, like you're just making the move to appease some fans, give them something to be excited about for about 8 games until they realize it's not going to win them any version of a championship or probably even get them to the playoffs.
They suck.
It reeks of desperation, in my opinion.
They suck, man. Like they got problems. Like I just don't.
I thought Trubisky looked better down the stretch. I didn't think he was good. I'm not saying he's the answer, but I don't think like going out and getting Nick Foles all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, now life in Chicago is going to be way better.
I agree. Trubisky's, I think, might need a change of scenery because of where they took him, and I don't think he's going to be a guy that carries them to the promised land. But I also don't think that he's, awful. At least not yet.
I've seen moments, and I watch a lot of the Bears because they're one of my arch nemesis. I've seen moments out of Mitch Trubisky where you've seen some signs of what they traded up for to get. Right? Oh, okay, that was pretty impressive. He's got the mobility. Is it all there? No. Is he ever going to be a great quarterback? Probably not. Most quarterbacks don't amount to being great quarterbacks. And you're right. The optics for the people in Chicago right now, after the Bears chose to not draft Watson and Mahomes in exchange for him, that's a bad look. But it doesn't mean that you have to only try to appease the fans.
No, but that definitely goes into you're right. That makes it worse. That makes the fans more pissed.
Don't compound one mistake with another.
But teams do that. It goes back to what we just talked about, how these teams are so poorly run, and they continue to do that. It's a great point, but teams continue to do it.
Yes, and I'm actually go back to what I just said because I hadn't actually phrased it that way before, but they continuously compound one mistake with another. Oh, we made this mistake. So instead of just living with it and trying to build from scratch, we're going to make another one to make ourselves look better for 4 games in front of the eyes of the fans. So I'm sorry, it's the NFL. People are going to show up for the games.
Exactly. I mean, to put it bluntly, it's true.
I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's all I got. We got to save some for hopefully a video tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll take video requests. There's anything you guys want us to talk about. And if anybody's bored, I completely redid the YouTube channel when we were kicked off for the hiatus 2 weeks, which obviously I wish that hadn't happened because now we're dealing with this. But it's a lot of strategy videos up there. We talked through a few of Matt's big wins on the MLB side of things. I got cash lineup building videos, NBA GPP strategies and things like that. So if you're really bored, there's a lot of videos out there. You can go into the YouTube channel and you can just rank them by most views, and you'll see a lot of these videos with 5, 6, 7,000 views are videos that are talking about strategy. So those are things you can watch. If you have any other requests for what we could talk about, we're willing to listen because we're short on topics at this point anyway. I mean, we would love to talk about the NFL every day, but once this thing calms down, there just isn't going to be that much more to bring up.
No, really, we talked about most of it today. I think baseball is really the next thing we can dive into. I wish we had a date, but it seems like it's going to be a little while at least. So we're going to have to just, think on the fly, do stuff that maybe is a little bit different out of our comfort zone, which it is what it is. Again, I love your idea of getting suggestions. I know a bunch of people have told us they miss us. Well, show us you miss us by liking this video today and give us some suggestions on what to do, because that's what we need right now.
Again, I seriously hate begging for money on YouTube, and it's something we almost never do. We bring up selling our subscriptions to the website and stuff like that. I'll take tips right now. I absolutely hate saying that, but the PayPal address is below. There's a lot of you guys who are also in bad situations. So please, 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 if money's tight around your house too, don't put anything over here. But if you happen to be in a good situation, we'll take it.
This has hit us, man. No doubt, it's hit us at a tough time too. We talked about in DFS a lot when you're kind of in the dull months before baseball starts. We were looking forward for baseball to start. We still are looking forward to baseball to start whenever that is. So any help that we can get in between them would be much appreciated. We won't forget about it, and it'll keep us afloat, because ultimately I'm sure you guys want to see us when sports are back.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, like, I'd like to go out and get a full-time job right now, but where?
Right?
What are you going to do? Nobody's hiring. They're all laying people off. I had a part-time bartending job. That clearly isn't a thing anymore. I told you that I was working on getting my personal training certification so that I could help with that. Gyms are all closed around here right now, so I can't do that as well. And it's like, I'd love to just do something to get out of the house because I'm bored out of my gourd. But, like, what are you going to go do? I started playing online poker again, so I've turned 20 into 75 over the last 2 days. But I also can't put a lot of money in my account because there's nothing coming in right now.
No, there's nothing to do. There's no place to go because you shouldn't be around people. I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the video, the restaurants and stuff. Everyone's suffering, man. And there's, aside just that this virus is scary, it's scary to think about America 2 months like this, because, a lot of people, like you've talked about, can't go without working. I mean, this is hurting us. It's only been a week. It's been less than a week.
I forget the exact number, but approximately 50% of the United States can't afford a $400 medical bill. So I want people to really grasp it. If you're in a good situation and you have a good job, and think about all the people out there right now who legitimately can't pay their bills. And I was, the movie Office Space?
Mm-hmm.
The part where he's out to lunch with Jennifer Aniston, and she's like, well, if you're not working, how are you going to pay your bills? And he's been like, well, I never really liked paying bills, so I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. Like, honestly, like half of the country right now is almost going to have that mentality. Like, well, I would love to pay my bill, but I don't think I can really pay them anymore. Like rent, mortgage, car payments. There are people who are seriously going to be suffering. So it sucks. Again, I said, like, both you and I are in, life situations we can probably stomach something like this, but there's a lot of people out there that don't have that support. So if you can support and help people out, please do so. And as much as we'd like to beg for your money right here, there's probably people who could probably use it more. If you have the capability of helping someone, please do so.
Yeah, again, we're struggling right now. This is an awful situation for us, but me and you aren't going to starve, like some people are really worried about out there. So everything's put into perspective always. And that's, you got to think about the people who are really, really struggling, because we need each other right now. When devastation hits, people got to pick each other up. And even if you can't be around other people right now, you can still help in any way you can. So if you don't take anything else away from this video, take that.
Yeah, I have parents who can help me if needed to be. I have a rich uncle who literally posted on Facebook earlier today that because the government's talking about giving everybody $1,000. It's just kind of like a stimulus to help people get through the rough times. He's like, hey, I forget exactly how he put it, but for anybody else who can take their $1,000, he's like, please go push it into your local businesses to try to keep them afloat. He's like, again, everybody likes free money, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to afford something like this. He goes, I'll take my $1,000, and he goes, I'm giving it all to my favorite local bar because he also likes to party a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, some people could use that $1,000 to, without it, they might not be able to live. Other people won't mean anything to them. So, it's just completely dependent on your situation.
Yep. And again, if you can't get by, it doesn't hurt to help, or ask for help.
Right.
What I mean? Like, I know this sucks for me, you, and like millions and millions of other people, but there's no end in sight either. This is a really weird situation. Trying to explain to my kid that dad doesn't have the answer on this is so weird, because he's like, well, is this going to happen? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. This could go on for 6 months, and we're really going to probably hate each other at the end of this, but this could go on for a really long time. Not me and you, like me and my kids. Like, you're going to drive each other insane.
It's scary to think about it, but it's the truth. I hope that things are up, and I hope that baseball's starting at the beginning of June. But honestly, that's still a couple months away. Even if I think that's the best case scenario. So we got to buckle down. I've read some memes going around like your grandparents, were forced to go to war. You're being forced to sit on the couch. You can do this. And
I laughed at that one too.
It's not all true. It is kind of true. So,
yep.
I mean, we've got TV. It's boring. No doubt about it. Everyone's bored, but we'll get through this. And I'll definitely be not bitching as much about missed call, third strikes, and all that other, minimal stuff once sports are back.
For sure. And, for me and you and probably everybody watching this video, like, we love sports. So, like, we immediately felt the hit. But now you're starting to, like, the novice sports watcher has been like, shit, I didn't realize how much I missed it because it's an escape from your everyday life.
Yeah.
And now you're stuck at home. And, like, we work in the sports industry. My typical day is get up, drink coffee, start looking at a DFS slate, wait for you to finally be ready. And then we get on here and start talking about sports. And then in the afternoon, you write the article and I go get my kids or, pick them up and bring them to practice. Then I come home, set my DFS lineups and watch sports. Like, none of it exists right now.
No, our whole lives, especially like me and you, are based around sports. It is a shock right now. I mean, I'm driving my wife crazy. I mean, I'm just bored.
Did you see Aisha Curry's Aisha's Curry, or I can't remember how to pronounce her first name.
I think that's it. No, I didn't see it.
She's like, hey, NBA, can you get this thing back going already? She goes, he keeps asking me how my day is.
Yeah, right? It's true. Man. We don't have the answers. At least we're on here talking. Hopefully this video gets some good views because I'd love to make more of these.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of you guys are bored.
You know the old saying, time flies when you're having fun? Well,
yes.
It seems like time has moved so slow in the past week, but this video is now approaching an hour and a half, and I feel like it's the fastest hour and a half since this all started.
For sure. And, like, I'm thinking about even just me, like, with my YouTube things that I like to watch. Like, I've had entertainment on for, like, days in a row right now, and I'm really big into politics. But now that, like, we kind of know that Joe Biden's going to be the Democratic nominee, and it's going to be, Biden versus Trump, however far down the road that ends up being if that gets delayed. Like, it's just not as interesting to me right now because I know exactly where things are going to go. And so I'm like, I don't have that because that's pretty boring to me at this point. Sports is pretty much over. And, like, I've listened to every song I like about a bajillion times in the last couple of days. I'm like, now what's next? Like I told you, I restarted The Shield. I'm almost done with season 3. That's 39 episodes in about 4 days or something like that.
It's going to be over soon. I was thinking about that when you said that yesterday. Like, I didn't want to mention that to you, but, like, it's not just like, oh, once that's done, we're going to be back to normal. Like, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's all I'll say.
And it is not outside the realm of possibility that this lasts for 6 months. And that is scary as hell.
It's not outside the realm at all. I mean, it's just not. It's definitely.
We're talking NFL, but NFL, it's not crazy to think the NFL doesn't happen this year.
At least start on time, no doubt about that.
What's that?
At least start on time.
Right. I mean, again, I'm an optimist. I think you know that. I almost always look at everything as glass half empty. So I'm still holding out hope that we can at least get the NBA playoffs and that baseball maybe starts in 6 weeks or something like that. Even if it's without fans being at the games, at least we can watch it on TV. But I also know that might be pie in the sky, and it sucks to think about.
Yeah, the unknown always hurts. We talked before, and all you can really do is stay home. And the only way we'll see, the impact of that is by nothing happening, because nothing happening is a good thing. People not getting sick is what we want right now. So do your part, stay away from other people. I know gyms are all closed around here. Freaking sucks. I mean, that was like the one thing I was looking forward to doing like every day. Like, shit, I got enough time to go to the gym. I know for you at least run outside, which is
and that was the next thing I was going to say. I was going to encourage people. So I know you say you hate running outside. My kid's mom, she used to hate running outside, but now she loves doing it. And the thing with running is it does suck the first 5-10 times you're doing it, but it's also one of the easiest workouts. What I mean by that is we all live busy lives, not right now, but eventually we'll all live busy lives again. being able to just toss on your tennis shoes, pop outside, run 2 miles, you're back home in 20 minutes, hop in the shower, get off to work or whatever it might be. Take this time to do that. I'm old, so I can't run every single day. Like I can go every other day, but it'll be bad on the knees and everything like that to do it every day. And I'm struggling to find things to do at home. If you got a Roku TV, you got Beachbody on demand. If you got any kind of free weights around your house, instead of getting very sedentary and getting into drinking too much, which I've been doing too much of that too, like lift weights when you're at home. Start telling yourself you got to do 200 push-ups every day. Start doing crunches because it's going to help the time fly. And that way, when eventually we get out of this, like it won't be as bad. It won't be as much of a shock to the system because it's really easy to get really freaking lazy in a situation like this.
Yeah, no doubt about that at all. So even if you're not running outside, like yesterday, I took a couple-mile walk, just walk the dog.
Get out.
Get out. It's better than nothing. So, amen.
I ran yesterday and then took the kids hiking because we got some actual decent weather here in Wisconsin. Start doing push-ups. Anybody can do a push-up.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it might be. Also, something that I've mentioned, earlier, and I've told a couple of you guys, like, being newly single and stuff like that, like having this time that I haven't been used to having for the last 10 years. I've been working on getting my license, being a personal trainer. So I told you I'm going to start doing like a daily fitness tip on here, just something to talk about for the time being. If you're interested, I'm going to talk more about the things that I help keep you motivated as opposed to just like, this is the kind of lifts that you should do. Because ultimately, it's easy to learn those things, but if you don't get into it and you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. So none of those things even become advantageous.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. You got to want to do it yourself. Agreed.
Yeah, I could tell one of my buddies, I'm thinking of my buddy Jeremy, like tell him to go do CrossFit or whatever you're thinking of, or some kind of cross trainer exercise, but he's not going to do it. But he would play basketball every day if he could. So find something that's of interest to you that you actually enjoy doing. Like I know you go do yoga sometimes. Arguments can be made for or against different types of exercise, but if you like it, go freaking do it. Like it's just, you got to find the things that make you motivated and that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I love doing hot yoga. It's people who haven't done it are like, what, yoga? And I love it's one of the best workouts out there. I love it. Unfortunately, can't do it right now, but I'm going to be doing some from home. So, yeah. Listen,
I don't like yoga. So for me, like that wouldn't work because I wouldn't stay motivated daily to go do that. But I like running. You don't like running. You just got to find out what works for you. There is no right or wrong answer there.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, doing something is better than doing nothing.
This is so true.
So I don't know, guys. We've ranted long enough. We'll take video suggestions if you got it. We're up for pretty much anything. And I don't know. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow.
Stay safe out there, guys.